Hello, Yanik.
Здравствуйте, Геннадий.
Good to see you. Очень хорошо, очень рад тебя видеть.
Да, тебя тоже.
Yes, Yanik's story, if you can tell a little bit. I mean, you have Russian roots, which you kind of still cultivate
A
after all these
little bit,
years.
yeah. My Russian, when I speak Russian, it sounds very American, but I'm kind of like the family dog. I can understand everything in Russian, but I can't speak back always. The same, yeah. So my parents and I and my grandmother came over from Moscow when I was 3 years old,
Mhm.
and we were one of the first wave, I think, of Russian immigrants during that time in '76.
Yeah. But from Russia, you brought somehow, I mean, through family or whatever, your creativity, because you're quite known in Western society in America as being very, very creative guy. With the vision. Some people were called, I mean, you were creator of Maverick 1000. It's a group of, yeah, tell us more a little bit about it because
Yeah, I
Sir
mean,
Richard Branson is involved heavily.
he's involved. He's someone that we do a trip with every year to his island. It's been about 11 years now that we've been doing an adventure there, an experience, and so it came from me wanting to do something. I started in the internet marketing world, digital marketing world, back in 2000, and then that took off. That did pretty good, and then people asked me how did I do it, and could I teach them how to do it. So then that turned into me teaching them how to take their information and expertise and knowledge and sell it online. And then about, I don't know, 11, 12 years ago, I just looked at my life and I said, am I happy? And would I be happy doing what I'm doing 10 years from now? And it's a very simple question, outside looking in, very successful, everyone would think that, making a lot of money, helping a lot of people. But I just wasn't truly happy. Like, I thought that there was something more. And so that started this whole path of what Maverick was. And originally it was just adventure travel trips. We would go on adventures. We'd have other entrepreneurs and friends of mine that I wanted to take, and we would have business sessions doing that. And then we'd have a charity component. So all those three things are all very similar to now, but the model has really changed because about $400,000 in, my wife said, so what are you doing? And I didn't have a very good answer for her, except for the fact that there was still something there, and it was something pushing me. And it made me realize that I didn't want to build just an adventure travel company. It was what we call now, we say, change the way business is played. And so
Yeah.
Maverick 1000 is, how do we bring together high level entrepreneurs who want to grow themselves, evolve, make a difference in the world, and have some fun together.
I know that you are collected during all these years, like sort of $3 million or something for some social enterprises, for some charity, etc. So that's
Yeah, it's probably even maybe a little bit more now as we look at, there's probably a bigger cumulative total of the members and what they've done and so forth. And so that's been a nice dollar, and I think it could be significantly more as we move into this next decade here. To me, those three pillars that we stand for are growth, impact, and fun. And that impact is, it could be the dollar side, but there's also a lot of other ways. I think that businesses have the greatest opportunity for making a difference in the world. They have the greatest levers, and one of them is money, but then there's other ways as well.
yes, I like this description. People doing serious things and do not take themselves seriously, because
Yeah,
a lot of fun, a lot of really cross-dressing even that you do, and at the same time there is a mission. There is obviously very very strong humanitarian sort of aspect of all this gathering and these people
yeah,
staying
like
together.
purposeful play.
Purpose.
I love play, and dressing up is really fun because it puts people in a different space. It takes away, if this person is this very high level CEO, and this person is something else, and we're working with a charity partner or whatever, but it puts everyone on the
Mm.
same page too. But it also opens up that creativity, like you were talking about, and just fun. So we've done, I don't know, we've done everything from, you mentioned Richard Branson. So on the island, at one time when we were doing, every year it's to support the charity Virgin Unite, and one time we actually all got dressed up in lemur outfits,
Yeah.
and then we have, so we're having a session there in support of the charity. So we're always having a brainstorm. I like to put people's brain power and their talents to use. And so we had everyone in a lemur outfit, and then Richard comes in and we're like, here you go, here's your outfit. And he doesn't miss a beat. He puts it on, and then we just continue the meeting as nothing is, it's like nothing's happening, but inside these lemur pajamas.
It's again, I mean, all these CEOs, when they dress nicely in their suits and ties and etc. And that's one thing. There is a certain, when I put a jacket myself, I behave differently than when I have Hawaii shirt. So I think it's really like role playing when people take off, ties and feel like completely different settings, like what you did in Kenya, I think, in Safari and the Richard Branson Safari Park. It's like completely, it's revelation. I mean, you're really opening up your vision and you think out of the box. So it's part of this algorithm when you become creative.
It's just fun, yeah. And I think that when people try and force it and they say, okay, we're going to have, silly hat day at work or something to make it fun. But if they don't really, it doesn't come from them, like being truly authentic about it, it doesn't work. Like there has to be, like, you can't copy somebody else and say, okay, we're going to do the exact same thing, but it has to be from your own culture and what do you want to bring forth. And so, we call it a little bit of maverick mischief and just fun. And
but it's something really which makes people closer to each other. When people take all this role play, take them kind of business, masks out, and inside we're all humans, and inside we're very much, look like each other. I mean, we want the same thing, and it's really, I understand the point of that. So it's really great.
Yeah.
And tell us about your cosmic journal, if you don't mind, because I think this is a remarkable thing, which I don't know whether people would appreciate in my part of the world that. I mean, I'm sure it will be a blast, but tell us more about it.
Yeah, well, so this, it looks like this, and it is literally every single day for 108 days, I hand wrote a page in a journal.
Tell me the story. Tell us the story. I know the story.
Yeah.
I know the
So it came from, so I've been journaling for years. I love journaling. And I think it's one of the best processes that we can use, especially as entrepreneurs, as leaders, because we have so much going on in our heads typically and swirling around. And journaling creates a way of putting that on paper, and it creates a beginning, middle, and end. So if you do one page a day, ideally half a page, whatever it is, but that's going to help you. It's actually been scientifically proven to make you happier. So just journaling like that makes you happier. And then, but there's lots of other processes of journaling that I love. It could be anything from gratitude journaling to asking very good questions and then continuing to answer and answer and answer. And then, so as a kid, I wanted to be a professional hockey player and a cartoonist in the off season. So I've always loved drawing and that, but it kind of went away for a long, long time. But then in my journals, I started coming back to drawing a little bit. And then, I don't know, it's maybe been about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, I can't remember. I saw a little challenge going around online, 100-day art challenge. I create a piece of art every single day for 100 days. And I thought, wow, that would be interesting and also a lot because I travel around a lot. I have a lot of things going on. And I'm like, okay, well, I think I'm going to do it. Let's try it, see what happens. And I love little challenges or experiments, and because there's a beginning and an end, and then you see what happens. And so, journaling could be an experiment that you try. To anyone that's listening to this, they could do it for 3 weeks or a month or whatever it is, or no sugar or no alcohol, all these different, or meditation, like all these experiments, because there's an end date, and then you decide, okay, has it helped my life at all? So this was a much longer experiment, and to me, I said, okay, 100 is good, but I'm gonna choose 108 days, because in different wisdom traditions it has more meaning, and so I'm very much into yoga and meditation and so forth, and so the very first thing that I did, actually, I'll show you the actual journal. You're on the script of a little black moleskin, but the very first thing that I did was make 108 check boxes. And,
have you ever missed a day during all this 108?
No, it was every single day, no matter what happened. So I told you we had that summer camp. We were at camp, a very full day. I'm teaching, I'm attending, I'm doing all sorts of things, and then I come back to my little cabin, and I'm gonna actually write something or draw something. And so this is the actual journal, and so you can see like literally whatever was happening was was what I'd be writing about. Sometimes it was, I would have some pages that I might grab out of my journal from past years, but a lot of times it was just meditating and seeing what came through me or what wanted to be here. Right? This is
How
a good
much
one.
time do you spend on average every day?
Here's the the Capitals when they won the Stanley Cup. How much time? It would anywhere from a half hour to an hour, maybe. It depends. But it was really interesting because as I got into it, maybe 60, 70 days, there are times when it just became intuitive. I'm trying to show you two of them that are interesting. So this one is really interesting to me. So this is a labyrinth. And so originally I was just going to write at the top, you don't need to see the full path, just the next step. And that was it. And so I spent a lot of time drawing this labyrinth and so forth. And then, intuitively I thought, wow, this would be really interesting if I kept writing and what happens. And then as I kept writing, based on where I was in the labyrinth, what came up was the exact words that were needed. Like, it says, even if you feel like you're turned around, even if you feel like you're further away from your goal, and it just beautifully came together. And then there was another time when I spent a lot of time making an illustration, and the quote was supposed to say, bloom where you're planted. Mm-hmm. And so I spent a lot of time on this flower illustration, trying to find it here. And then my pen slipped. It was like 3:00 in the morning. And I literally, so I wrote bloom where you're plane. I'm like, what the hell? Now I need to start over. I'm like, no, this is good. It's a good accident. Let me see what I'm going to do with it. And so then I wrote bloom where you're planeted. So this whole idea of like, why are you here? Why are you planeted here? And then that became like an even bigger kind of entry. And so this was, super powerful. I started showing it to some friends and they loved it. They're like, you need to publish this. And I'm like, yeah, maybe at some point. I mean, it was created for myself. And that's what I think makes the project so interesting, is that there was just so much joy every single day when I checked off that box, and it was written for myself. And then I started using it like an oracle. I would just pop it open. What do I need to know today? One of my friends, he loves to invest in what he calls bliss. So he's like, I see how much you light up about this journal. I love it. I'm going to pay to have a limited edition created, these special like vegan leather purple journals for you. And I'm like, okay. So then that turned into a real project where then I had every page scanned, and on my kitchen island, I have these little 2-inch by 2-inch, it's all over my island, like trying to figure out like what was the order, because if you actually go through the journal now, you can go through page by page and there's a real arc to it, because it was never written that way. It was just written whatever came forth. And then I also created the left-hand page, where people would write their own, and I had to create all of that. And so it was the most inflow, amazing project that ever came forth. And then one of my friends had a breakfast meeting set up for me with the president of Hay House, Reed Tracy, and he looked at the original sort of piece and he's like, wow, this is something different. And they fast-tracked a contract for it and loved it. So that's how it came to this. And I've had 2 people cry so far when they've gotten the right page, and it's just been really powerful.
Can we try that, do you think, at least once? Can we try with the number?
Yeah, let's try. So pick a number between 3 and 189.
It's 37.
Okay, 37. Okay, perfect. So this is your page, so people can kind of get a little bit of a sense of it. And so this is for you and the audience. It says, joy is your soul's GPS. No matter how hard you struggle or fail, you can always track your true purpose by joy. Such a subtle energy of truly feeling joy. It's not happiness that's fleeting. It's about feeling fully utilized. All your gifts, talents, past learnings, wins and misses, everything, but it comes as effortless effort. Even when things seem like they're going in the wrong direction, tap into joy to get back on track. That's the language of your full heart. Joy provides energy. You channel inspiration. Even the word itself holds an idea of what happens. Inspire means to breathe into, typically of a divine nature. Where does your inspiration come from? From your higher purpose, calling to you from beyond. The idea comes totally filled with energy to get it done. That's inspiration at work. It's part of your cosmic download. then enthusiasm takes hold. Again, the word holds clues. Enthusiasm, even saying the word leads to feeling enthusiastic. Be inspired or possessed by God. Words create worlds. There's a reason certain ideas or things inspire us, and the journey of joy energizes us. This natural attractor is like a magnet. If you let your heart and higher purpose guide you, a good question to ask is there joy today? So,
Brilliant. May I ask you how much editing you've done after, or it's just because it looks it flows very nicely and it's like, it reads very nicely?
believe it or not, almost
Are you
zero
that
editing.
wise? Are you that wise?
I think I was like really just almost like tapping into, after meditation, you're more open. And so it was tapping into something else really, and allowing that to come through. So, but when I did, so the purple journal, which is that limited edition one, has a few more of the illustrations and no editing. The Hay House version, this one, they asked me to edit about 20% of the entries for readability, making a few, removing a little bit. And that was the most interesting editing job that I've ever done, because it was all handwritten, right? So I had to redo an entire page, or I had to redraw something, or I had to rewrite an entire paragraph, and then it would be cutting and pasting. And it was really interesting. So, but most of them were just what came out, and it's an interesting process to work with it, because it's handwritten, not typed.
No, they say it activates much more neurons in your brain when you do it, especially if you do it like even with a pencil, it's better than with a pen. To say nothing of course, typing, which is like absolutely make you distant from your writing.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It does activate different neurons. And then the other thing about it, and this is for people that want to explore this a little bit too, is if you use a journal or try, just a lot of people have attempted journaling and stopped, or they, they're worried that someone's going to read it, or they're, whatever it is.
Some people perceive it's like girly thing,
Yeah, maybe it's like a diary. But it's such a, I look at different people throughout history that kept journals, and to me, they're people that had something interesting to say. But it's also just a beautiful process of you working through anything. And I can go back, I'll flip to different pages and I'll be like, oh yeah, that was a big thing for me then. It's not now. Like, that's so interesting, because, at that moment, it feels like it's such an overwhelming, I don't know.
It shows
thing that's happening.
Evolve yourself. Yes, how you grow.
But the neurons that you're mentioning, so there's another process. I love the creative, obviously, and intuitive journaling, and we're always looking for answers. And I think we have our own best answers, but how do we activate it? How do we tap into it? And one way is using things like an oracle, where it's like, okay, what do I, how does that, man? Because we're meaning creating machines, right? So we're gonna look at something.
For example, you made me feel better by opening this, joy thing, because that's absolutely right. And I feel that, how can I say? I feel it better now than before I asked for that page. So
good. So yeah, because joy is like a beautiful emotion where it's like you feel fully utilized, like you're using all your talents and gifts. And you can be still joyful and feel even sadness or unhappiness, but that you're putting out your full, I call it effortless effort, like something that and I've been working through this in yoga poses, because like sometimes you want to stretch too much and then you're going to hurt yourself, but other times you're not going far enough. But like, how do you really put your full effort in, but it doesn't feel like effort? It's this effortless effort. And joy, I look at joy as like this little GPS, and it's continuing to attract us, and whatever holds allurement and attraction, it's going to keep moving us forward. And then pain are these guardrails, right? So the guardrails can be more narrow if you're in alignment and you're easily moving through with joy, or I think the universe can continue bonking us on the head if your guardrails are wider. And that's when you're going to have this kind of movement up, but you're still being attracted by joy. And, so I mentioned $400,000 was kind of my wake up call for what am I doing and how do I move out of this? I was having lunch with one of my friends a couple of years ago, and he said, oh yeah, 400,000, mine was 4 million. And I'm like, oh yeah. Okay. So that's pretty good. So, the universe kind of continues like bonking you on the head until you're in that alignment. And And one of the other ways of finding that alignment that I really love, again, going back to activating different neurons, is using non-dominant handwriting. So in your journal, I learned this from a friend of mine, a guy named Bill Donius, who's an innovation coach for Fortune 500. And so he learned this from a child psychologist. Actually, she would get kids to draw with their left hand, their non-dominant hand, and it would really open up something new. And so we can do that, especially with questions, because I love questions. Questions really open up answers. So especially as I was going through that period of time when I was trying to figure out what was happening, how do I navigate through this? So a question like, what would I do even if I knew it would fail? Right? Like, how are we going to put our full energy into something regardless of the outcome? What would my 111-year-old self tell me? Who has more to gain than I do by this succeeding? So I love questions like that. And then I would answer with my right hand, my regular hand, keep answering. Once I've exhausted that, I would use my non-dominant hand and answer. And that really, like, even you're like, oh, I don't think I could read it. It seems so silly, but it's really powerful. It's like unbelievably powerful. And I was even last night just working with my non-dominant hand. I don't do it every single night, but it creates new answers. And you can do this.
Of your brain, obviously.
It uses the other part. It's a holistic way. It's really unbelievable. I really learned this many years ago. I still play ice hockey on a men's league team. No checking, not so rough typically. But that night I got hit somehow. I hurt my elbow, so I couldn't journal. And then I said, I feel like I remember there's this book I have about left-handed writing, and I opened it up and then I tried it. And like what came out was so powerful. It was like, wow, it sounds a little bit like me, but not me, almost like this higher elevated self. And it was so powerful.
It's interesting. It's excellent advice. I definitely will try it tonight even. But because you feel that first of all, it takes much more effort to write. And then obviously you're more selective subconsciously what you put down, because you know that you cannot write crap because it's too much effort with the left hand. Yeah. So you select somehow, so it's interesting.
Yeah, try it and let me know. And then there's a lot of things you can do with this. So I will have sometimes, ask the question and then answer. Sometimes it's, I'll have a Q&A. So I created these, they're not out yet, but I have these oracle cards. So that's part of the Cosmic Journal. They're called Cosmic Journey Oracle cards. And I have these like little play versions of them in paper as I'm waiting for the actual cards to be done. And in there are 11 cosmic Q&As. So it's like, you can have a question and answer with your 111-year-old self, with your 11-year-old self, with the universe, with the great galactic grandmother. And so you actually can embody the attributes of that archetype essentially. And then you connect with it. And then, so you'll ask a question with your regular hand and then you answer through that archetype. And you can also do this with, believe it or not, I've done it with mentors, that have even passed on. I've done it with my mom who passed on about 15 years ago. You can really connect in all sorts of ways with this non-dominant handwriting, and it's really, really powerful.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's fun, and because again, I think that we have the answers within us. It's just how do we activate them? How do we bring them forth?
Great, Yanik. I can talk forever, and it's really pleasure of talking to you. And I really would like this Cosmic Journal to be translated somehow, because I think it would be a wonderful piece of, and a lot of people, more and more people speak English nowadays. So I think probably even the English version would be, interesting for a lot of people. So we will talk about that when.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, it'd be very much a joy to have it translated in Russian. I could see it. I could see that for sure.
Well, thank you very much. And I think that our, talk, it's not even an interview. I mean, hopefully will help people, to get some creative ideas from what you said about journal. I even myself, what I'm going to do after we finish that, I will rest a little bit and then I'll start writing with my left hand.
Oh, good.
From brushing my teeth with my left hand occasionally.
Yeah.
Much more interesting really to write, and I'll see what sort of potential I can tap into.
Yeah, send me a note and let me know what shows up for you.
Right. Okay.
Okay, Gennady.
Thank you very much.